Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Pada hari ini dapat menghadiri acara Jakarta Future Festival. Berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah Bapak dan Ibu. Baik, kembali lagi bersama saya Giovanni Cornelia yang akan memandu acara untuk hari ini dengan tema Connecting Jakarta Public Transportation Coverage in a Global City di Global Hub Teater Kecil Jakarta. Tapi sebelum kita memulai, saya ingin membacakan satu buah pantun dulu nih Bapak dan Ibu. Jadi mohon untuk dibantu cakepnya ya. Pagi cerah burung bernyanyi, langit biru bertambah ceria. Transportasi publik kian terintegrasi, Jakarta terhubung layaknya kota dunia. Wah, saya senang sekali nih sehari ini mendengar semangat Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Dan seperti yang kita ketahui, transportasi publik di Jakarta sudah semakin maju ya Bapak dan Ibu. Tapi semangat dari warga Jakarta ini membuat saya semakin terinspirasi karena tidak hanya untuk mendukung pemerintah provinsi, mengurangi polusi dan juga kemacetan, tetapi juga warga Jakarta ini tetap terus berinovasi untuk mengintegrasikan transportasi. Contohnya kita punya ada ojek online dan juga taksi online yang tentunya sangat berguna bagi kita semua. Karena penting bagi kita warga Jakarta untuk mencerminkan akses, keadilan dan juga kualitas hidup berdasarkan dari transportasi publik yang kita miliki di Jakarta. Baik, pada hari ini kita akan membahas transportasi publik dan juga inovasi. Dengan narasumber yang ada pada hari ini, mari kita sambut yang terhormat Profesor Remahana dari Harvard Kennedy School. Berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah. Profesor Remahana dipersilahkan. Okay, welcome Profesor Remahana. Thank you very much for coming today. Beliau ini merupakan profesor dari Harvard Kennedy School dan juga spesialis di Southeast Asia Study atau penelitian dari Asia Tenggara. Baik, berikutnya kita akan sambut Ibu Lin Yola. Beliau merupakan akademisi perkotaan dari Universitas Indonesia. Mari tepuk tangan yang meriah. Silakan Ibu Yola. Beliau ini merupakan expert dari UN SDG atau Sustainable Development Global Expert. Berikutnya mari kita sambut Bapak Yoga Adi Winarto. Beliau dari Brain Trust Karsa City Lab. Selamat datang Bapak Yoga. Beliau merupakan ahli dari transportasi dan juga ITDP dan Transjakarta. Tepuk tangan sekali lagi yang meriah Bapak dan Ibu. Baik, berikutnya kita sambut Ibu Clarina Andreni, Head of Public Affairs Strategy, Sustainability and Social Impacts dari Jabo Grab Indonesia. Selamat datang Ibu Clarina. Baik, untuk sesi diskusi pada hari ini akan dimoderatori oleh Bapak Ahmad Gifari selaku Fungsional Perencanaan Ahli Madya Bapeda DKI Jakarta. Bapak Ahmad Gifari dipersilakan untuk memasuki panggung. Baik, terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu telah datang pada hari ini. Selanjutnya sesi ini akan dimoderatori oleh Bapak Ahmad dan sampai bertemu kembali kepada saya di akhir acara ini. Saya pamit undur diri, terima kasih.
Terima kasih MC. Selamat siang teman-teman semua. Waduh, kurang semangat nih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang semuanya. Okay, baik, good afternoon everyone. Thank you for coming to this event, the Jakarta Future Festival 2025. Yeah. My name is Ahmad Gifari. I will be moderating this session. As we know that the Jakarta Future Festival 2025 serves as a moment to celebrate urban collaboration. And it's designed as a space for cross-sector expression, exploration and ideation to anticipating 3 strategic milestones for Jakarta planning. The first one is related to the medium-term planning 2025 till 2029. The second one is related to the leading up to the city's 500th anniversary. And the last one is how to reach Jakarta become the global city to the top 20 global city in the world. This discussion is dedicated to the theme Connecting Jakarta, Public Transportation Coverage in the Global City, with the objective to bring together key stakeholders, government, private sectors, academic, civil society, and youth to identify pressing challenges and formulate actionable solutions to enhance the public transportation connectivity between Jakarta's main island and its surroundings island. If we talk about the public transportation, it's not merely about the mobility, right? It is a means to unlock access, to expand opportunity, and promote spatial justice for all residents of the city, including those living on islands, coastal areas, and communities that have long been underserved. So I hope in here we also see the people coming from Kepulauan Seribu. Is there any people coming from Kepulauan Seribu? Waduh, sayang sekali ya. Tidak ada nih. Yeah, but we bring this issue to this session afternoon because until right now, Jakarta still face major problems and challenges for the transportation sector, with the road congestion being one of the most prominent issue also. Still have remember that at the first 2004, when Jakarta tried to revitalize the transportation, maybe you still also remember when the start we established the technical units for the Transjakarta management. But now, 20 years after, it means 2 decades, we see that the transportation spaces in Jakarta now going improvement. At that time, we never see people queuing up, but now in every corridors and also in every shelter in the bus Transjakarta, we see the queuing up people. Very nice. So give applause to the achievement of Jakarta. All right, this session I will be moderating a discussion, and then let me introduce the distinguished speaker that you are coming here. The first one is Professor Rema Hana. He's the Jeffrey Koch Professor of the Southeast Asia Studies at Harvard Kennedy School, where she also served as chair of the International Development Area. She is the scientific co-director JPAL, Southeast Asia, and has held visiting faculty position at Stanford University and the University of Zurich. Her research focuses on improving public service delivery and social protection in developing countries, particularly through evidence-based policymaking and governance reform. Professor Hana has authored numerous influential studies, many of them on Indonesia, published in the top economic journals such as the American Economic Review and the Journal of Political Economy. She holds a PhD in economics from MIT and Bachelor of Science in Policy Analysis from Cornell University. And then the second one's Associate Professor Lin Yola. He's coming from the School of Strategic and Global Studies, University of Indonesia, with a strong academic and professional background in urban studies. Is best known for her urban energy balance model of climatically responsive urban configuration. She also has 15 years of experience in academic and administrative position in some national and international university programs. She is highly active as international reputable index journal editor and reviewer, sustainable development goals education curriculum developer, international conference chairman, and smart green lifestyle campaign community services. The third one is Yoga Adi Winarto, the brain trust at Karsa City Lab, and a sustainable transport expert with over 20 years of experience in urban mobility across 10 countries. He has held leadership roles at ITDP as a regional director of Southeast Asia and at Transjakarta as a director engineering, operation, and safety. So he knows very well about Transjakarta. And he is currently director of business development at Kalista, Indica Energy Group, driving development of Indonesia electric vehicle ecosystem, and then also active in Secretary General of the Intelligent Transport System in Indonesia and Indonesia Transportation Society. And then the speaker number 4, Clarina Adreni, is a head of public affairs strategy, policy, and Jabo at the Grab Indonesia, leading initiatives on tech innovation, electric vehicles, and then also the woman empowerment with the over 10 years of experience in policy and advocacy. She is also previously supported the Presidential Special Staff on Tolerance and Youth Leadership and was among the youngest manager at the Deloitte Consulting Asia Pacific. Clarina has managed a major national program, including KPPIP and the One Map policy. She holds a master in international management from Portland State University and bachelor's in political science from the University of Indonesia. So let us give a warm round of applause to all the speakers. Wah, ini semangat sekali ya. Baik, and then we will now move to the discussion segment. I will be posing a few questions to all the esteemed panelists, and then each speaker we have at least 10 minutes while you are sharing your presentation also. The first one to Prof. Rema Hana regarding the profession that you are doing, especially the research. My question is related to what global examples can Jakarta draw from where public transport successfully connect remote island communities with the urban mainland center. Prof. Hana, we will invite you to share your valuable insight.
No, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so excited to hear all the talks today, and I'm grateful for everybody coming and spending your Saturday here talking about public transportation with us. Can we put the slides up? Oh. Mm-hmm. So what I wanted to do today is actually not just talk about other countries, but what's really exciting about Jakarta is that Jakarta has really been innovating to understand how to improve public transportation for the particular context of Jakarta. And in part, why this is so exciting is just because of all the data and all the information available that is collected that really allows us to think about how do we achieve these goals, both the goals we were talking about improving the networks and improving access for people, regardless within the city center, but also in more outlying areas as well, as we're also thinking about social justice. So why are we here? So why are you spending your Saturday with us? Well, public transport really is essential to a thriving city. It allows for better job opportunities. You could get to more places to get to work. You could do easier to get your groceries and other errands. You can see family and friends and movies and And it also has a lot of environmental benefits. As we think about air pollution, as we think about climate change, public transportation coming together allows us to have a much cleaner, much organized city as well. But at the same time, it's this thing of we really want to have all these benefits of public transportation. We must make sure that the public transportation works for the people. It's got to be convenient. It's got to be safe. It's got to be effective. Oops. So for me, as we could say there's a lot of learning from other countries, but for me, it's actually really exciting because the work being done here in Jakarta in Indonesia is actually a model for other countries. Because there's been a lot of research being done in this area in recent years with a lot of the successful different policies and programs that Jakarta has been doing, including, I'll talk about the work of TJ. And so I'm going to share insights from 2 studies that I had the honor to also be partly involved in that really leverage this creative data to try to understand how can we make public transport work better. Okay, so the first study is a part of this multi-year collaboration with Transjakarta and really thinking about what was the impact of Transjakarta's expansion in 2016 to 2020 on ridership. So we want to understand, as there's more buses on the road, more routes, how does it affect the people using it, which at the end of the day is what we want if we want it to be an effective system. So for this project, we used big data. And it was really amazing because Transjakarta, as part of its operation, has incredible data that can be used to really think about how to improve public policy. So who here uses Transjakarta? I do. Yeah. You all tap in, tap out. So that creates data on everybody's usage throughout the city. And so you could see what are the routes that people take, where they go, and you can use it to try to think about, can we allocate buses better? And so that's what we were doing. So we had data on the tap in and tap out, anonymous data showing routes. And then we also had, in every Transjakarta bus, there's GPS data. And so it allows us to see where the buses are heading. Are they slowed down? Are they stuck in some sort of traffic? And so we use that data as well. And then we also looked at, from another company, we got this data on cell phone usage. So it allows us to look at not just Transjakarta trips, but trips in general around the city to try to understand not just where people are going on TJ, but what are the other areas within the city or common routes where you might want to expand access. And so, okay. So what did we find? Putting all this, I'm taking years of data analysis and combining it to a few findings. But first of all, what we really find is it allows us, putting together all this data allows us to say, when we make changes in Transjakarta, how does it affect ridership? And so the first thing we did is we really see that when you increase service, it makes a difference. So for example, when you increase a direct route, so instead of having to make 2 stops or 3 stops to get between the point of origin and the destination, but you have a direct route between the 2, it's much more convenient and it really increases ridership. And so what we find is that adding these direct routes increases ridership by 17% for the BRT, but then really large effects for the non-BRT, the feeder routes into the BRT from the outlying areas. Once you have a more convenient route for people really, there's a huge demand for it. We also then did a lot of analysis as well that another additional bus on a route increases ridership as well. And so we have all the data and the statistics on this. The next thing we did is we tried to understand, what do people care about? Can we infer that from the data? So the first thing we did is we saw that the amount of time you wait, either for the bus or your travel time, it really matters. Let me get it back here, sorry. Oh, thank you. It really matters, and so it matters for what type of bus. So we find that people are more willing to wait for a BRT bus, but there's a large wait time really discourages non-BRT bus travel, and so it helps us think about how we design the flow of buses to impact wait time. So we put all of this together, and we put together a large-scale model to then say, well, given this kind of information, given where people are in the city, the kind of routes that they make both on BRT and non-BRT, given their preferences for how long they're willing to wait, like how convenient it is to take the bus, we predicted how do you expand the network to increase ridership, also into areas outside the city. And so you can see the results here. We start off with the existing Trans-Jakarta network. It's a little bit more concentrated in the city. The model now predicts that if you expand the network to cover more areas in the outlying area, you can actually improve ridership a lot for the same cost, for the same number of buses you have. And so now we're working with TJ to say, well, okay, we've done this model. Does the model actually work? So we're going to test out some of these things in practice and see if it could increase ridership. Okay. So the other study I worked on, which was kind of super fascinating, is does everybody, do people know the 3-in-1 policy? Yes, okay. Okay, I was a frequent person trying to think about how do you get a third person in a car so that you could go on a main road during rush hour in Jakarta at the time. And so we wanted to understand what was the impact of this kind of policy on traffic congestion. And again, we used big data. So what we did is we got data from the Google Maps application, which on your cell phone, when you try to figure out like which route should I take, you look up the Google Maps, right? And it tells you the routes, it tells you how much traffic it is, it tells you what the ETA is. It's actually quite good, right? And so with that real-time data, not only do you use it for yourself and your destination, you can actually use it to look at, you can actually use it to do research. And so what we did is we got all this data for all these roads that were affected by the 3-in-1 policies, but also on alternative routes. Because if you don't have 3 people in the car, you'll take an alternative route to get to your destination. It's live data. It's really it was really quite incredible. So what happened? So on March 29, 2016, the Jakarta government announced the removal of the 3-in-1 restrictions. Now, why did it do this? I think there was doubt about whether or not it was actually reducing travel or not. I think there was also this issue, there was a social issue as well. So it used to be that there would be these jockeys who would stand by the road so that you'd pay them, I don't know, it was like 10,000 rupiah, maybe even less, and you'd have somebody sit in the car with you so you have enough people, and then there were cases where it was like a mother with a child to get 3, and I think a lot of these social issues said, well, we're worried about this policy, and so it was removed. And so we collected data to figure out what's going on. Now, what we saw is that actually removing the 3-in-1 at that time worsened traffic conditions, because when you had a 3-in-1 in place, when you removed it, travel time increased. So for example, in the morning peak hour, travel time increased 46% when the 3-in-1 was removed from when it was in place, and it worsened the evening peak hours. It was also interesting because it affected the unrestricted alternative roads as well. Okay, oops, wait. The slide was missing. But what was interesting about this is it basically said, the research said that these restrictions on the road actually matter. And I think at the time, there was still the worry about the social issues around the jockeys and such. And I think what ended up happening is the Jakarta movement, this is why we moved to the even-odd policy. So you can still get these policies around trying to improve the flow of traffic, but maybe not the social ills of the 3-in-1 policy. And so it gets back to this point before that we want public transportation to work, but we also want it to have a lot of social inclusion. Okay, so I think I've run out of time, so I see it, but I was just gonna say, I think there's a lot of interesting questions. Jakarta public transportation, I remember before TJ, I think, when TJ was just first starting coming to Jakarta and there was no way to get around, and it's just the amazing expansion of TJ, the MRT, there's just so many more options than before, and it's just so exciting, and I think all the data that it's generating, I think, can really help us think about how can we improve it further to make sure that we're creating services that really work for people. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Rema. If I'm not mistaken, I highlight that actually the data doesn't just explain the problems. and then it can power to the solution and giving some good policy also for the government. Thank you very much, Prof. Rema. And then now let's move to the Mbak Lin, the associate professor, and it's actually, the question is, what are the urban planning barriers that have hindered regular, reliable transport access between Kepulauan Seribu and Jakarta's mainland? And then also, what kind of infrastructure investment or spatial policy reform is needed to make inter-island connectivity a core part of Jakarta's public transportation agenda? Please, Ms. Lin, time is yours.
Thank you, Vipari, for very kind introduction. And hi, everyone. Happy to be here with you. Can you put the slides on? Thank you. Yeah, as the introduction just now, I would like to discuss this transportation system or topic from the perspective of the urban development, which of course it can't be seen from the single perspective of variables. So here I'm giving the title of Navigating Jakarta Global City, Strategic Mobility in Metropolitan Area. So I'm trying to discuss Jakarta not as a single city, but also how it relates to the other sub-centers, and of course from the perspective of macro scale or even region scale development. Of course, the discussion that I'm going to discuss today is based on the database on our studies on the urban studies, which of course my guru is here, Professor Gunawan, Izin Prof. We are going to share also, I'm going to share also part of the works that we've been working with Ministry of Transport last year. So, Jakarta metropolitan area as the barometer of the other metropolitan area in Indonesia is very unique. But if we zoom out for the entire Indonesia, Indonesia is a very unique one because we are the archipelago country, the biggest archipelago country, which we can see that all of the 10 metropolitan priority area here in Indonesia, almost all of them are within the coastal area, except one, maybe Bandung Raya, which giving the impacts of the context of the city itself, of course, is not only connected to the mainland, but also connects to other or inter-islands within the Indonesia area. But let me take 3 examples of the 3 metropolitan area here. We have Jabodetabek, Jakarta metropolitan area, Gerbang Kertosusilo in Surabaya, and one from outside of Java, maybe Dangro. If we can see here, Jabodetabek itself forming the biggest activities. We can see the light part is showing the activities during the night time. Is showing that the activity itself is not happening in the center of the city, but also in the buffer zone and neighbor states or province in Indonesia. And of course, supposedly there is activities moving towards the small islands. We have Kepulauan Seribu, but of course, because of the lacking of data, it's not showing very much here. And let me zoom in to the Jabodetabek area. This is showing the data of mobility spatial distributions from and to Jakarta. The upper one is showing how the activities during the night time and how the mobility going and coming towards the city center, and the below one is layering with the populations of the Jabodetabek. What I'm trying to say is Jabodetabek itself showing the character of the conurbations, which the buffer zone itself have the high mobility and independent themselves. I mean, compared to other metropolitan area which all centered to the main city center, but Jabodetabek is having high mobility also in the buffer zone and even the next province to Jakarta. But there is the phenomenon here. I'm trying to get the data from the statistical department that the number of the domestic tourist trips is very high in the city center, while is very gapping in Kepulauan Seribu. We comparing around 31 million to 110K. So it's very big gap. What happened? So the connectivity is going well in the Jakarta metropolitan area or the conurbation of Jakarta, but it's not happening to the crossing the island, which is also Kepulauan Seribu part of Jakarta. So what's going on? We can see that there are many examples in other countries or even in Indonesia itself. There are high mobility towards the other islands. We can see the Langkawi in Malaysia. We can see also Marida Bay, yeah, and even in maybe Palembang, we have the Pulau Kemaro. There is the high mobility towards there due to the spiritual or religion activities. But in Malaysia and Singapore, we can see that even Genting Island, the very isolated area, but people are going towards that area. Why? Because there is the attractions of the people moving there, not only people, but also logistic. So something is wrong here. What happened in Jakarta? What happened about the connections between Jakarta and Kepulauan Seribu? So my concerns, as what was asked by moderator just now, was behind this. We can see that the development of the Jakarta itself, or most of the city in Indonesia, is still based on the land-based development. So it's still concentrated in the mainland, but not to the small islands or the archipelago context of Indonesia. We have the poor planning stage. I mean, of course, we have the blueprint, but yeah, the transportation route is just coming after the blueprint. We have the challenge of the sectoral of the different sectors, infrastructure deficit, like what I said just now, where are the linkage or the infrastructure going to the Kepulauan Seribu. Of course, we need the water-based transportations, and of course, poor human development index, which could operate those systems. Besides that, of course, we have the potentials. Jakarta is a magnet. It's a magnet not only to the surrounding area, but also to the region. We are one of the most powerful economic force in Southeast Asia, especially. And Jakarta, of course, what I said just now is the barometer to other metropolitan area in Indonesia, but Jakarta is unique. The connectivity is not only talking about the integration of the transportation modes, intermodes, which in Jakarta we have around 9 modes, I think, but it could be more because we have also the private ones, the online taxis that is coming as well. Administrative boundaries, Jakarta's transportation is not only happening within the Jakarta province itself, but also to multi-province or states with the neighbor states. And we have the inter-islands. We have the Kepulauan Seribu, and of course the high mobility is also happening from Jakarta or Jawa to the Sumatra. And of course Jakarta, if yes, we are moving towards the global city, we are the power or the nodes of the region in the Southeast Asia. So what to do? Of course, the first one, people first. The model shift from the private to the public transportation, urban public transportation culture. We need to improve, of course, within the city on-time performance. The on-time performance issue is still going on in the city center, in the public transportations. We have the integrated system issue, the ticketing it needs to be integrated not only for one or two modes, but also for almost all of the modes. Mobility as the service should be a service for the people, integrating all of the modes just now, and for the inter-islands, TOD, of course, we are moving towards that, and human development and participations. Inter-island connectivity, I was talking about Kepulauan Seribu. We don't just need to have the good infrastructure. Of course, we can work with private Grab here for the water-based transportations, but we need to develop the driving forces, like what I said just now. If Malaysia goes for casino, we can also go for tourism in Kepulauan Seribu, something that attract the mobility towards that inter-island. And of course, we need to have the adaptive and context-based development of transportation system. No city, no planning or policy is fixed for all cities. Each cities need to be adaptive with the local context. So if Jakarta is having their own context, other metropolitan areas should have their own special context as well. Innovative and environmental friendly mobility, of course, we need to go smart, technology development, innovation, and as well as all needs to concern on the eco-friendly mobility. And the last one, the legal, the policy that hold all of this good planning and development institutions that covers this interlands and inter-province or states connectivity and mobility needs the very special institutions that could handle that, which currently we have the sectoral-based institutions issue, and of course the financings. The financings, we cannot just depend on the public funding from the subsidies and the tax, but we need to have some more collaborations. So I think that's it. The rest maybe we can discuss later. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Lin. I heard that government still have the orientation about the mainland development regarding the island. I guess this is the good inputs to our government that we have to remember. So back to the third speakers. Now from the other side, maybe Pak Yoga, Pak Yoga. If we heard the two speakers talk about the regional system, now we know shift our focus to the power communities. I guess Pak Yoga also has the experience because back to the Transjakarta situation at that time. So please welcome to the Pak Yoga, please.
Thank you, Pak Givari. Allow me to stand up because it's good for picture, Pak. For stand up. Afternoon, everyone. I tried to make it very, very quick, and also try to also answer Pak Givari's question as well. So first of all, allow me to introduce what is Karsa City Lab. So Karsa City Lab is the foundation or institution funded by Pak Anies Baswedan. And the goal is to kind of like spread the equality and also sustainable cities, livable cities across the world. I mean, we just established, I think, in February or March this year. The executive director is actually here, the one with the camera. That's Pa William. If you need any more questions, then you can contact him. So anyway, what I'll try to sort of answer the questions by Givari, but also try to share here is how we sort of like have reflection of Jakarta and what to do next. Again, this is just like a very random quote that I created. So I actually took it from the Batman Begin movie. Anyway, if you're familiar with the quote, then Yeah, don't blame me. So I think this is the thing that sometimes we kind of like blame the traffic. We blame other people in traffic. So without even realizing that we are actually the traffic ourselves. So unfortunately, this is the picture that I took earlier this year. So this is still happening in Jakarta. Not yet as the the city that we would like hope in the next year or two. But I think this is I think still a bleak picture of Jakarta, the reality. But on the other side of Jakarta, this is actually we call it the future of Jakarta. But I think this is also the current Jakarta. So while traffic is still sort of taking a lot of our space, but the city is transforming. At least in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, the city is sort of transforming. Sort of like become a people-oriented city. So you see, from the left, this Bundaran HI. We kind of like transform when we were in Transjakarta. We kind of like transform the experience for passengers. So the station is not only people for waiting the bus. So as Prof. Hana mentioned that waiting time, people actually hate it. So we make it more if you have 30 minutes for buses to wait for your bus, so you can just take pictures, spend coffees and everything. So that's kind of like the experience that we want to give to the passengers. The second and the third one is kind of like the neighborhood. One is in Blora near the transit hub, I think, or TOD hub in in the MRT office. The other one is the Block M. I think after not this weekend, maybe next weekend. For those of you who haven't been to Block M right now, this is actually really hip area right now. So I think how I want to show is that yes, Jakarta still have some bleak picture of the transportation, but we do have some hope, and it's already happening. Some businesses, some private institutions, some communities already started, to kind of like make the area sort of like a better living. I'm talking about existing public transport in Jakarta. So some figure that I get. I hope this is the right one. I know that at least for Transjakarta and MRT, I get it directly from them. So hopefully this is right. The other was kind of like a guesstimate. No, but I mean, now I did some small research. But anyway, bottom line is that we still kind of like low. I mean, 2.7 million daily passenger with the whole sort of network. I mean, Transjakarta have 14 corridors already with 204 kilometers long. MRT has some 14 kilometers long stations. And if you can see the map, it's very, very promising. I mean, you see all the integration of the map, of the network. But still, we still see like only 2.7 million daily passenger out of, as Prof. Hana mentioned, 28 million. That's kind of like the whole trips daily in Jakarta or in the Greater Jabodetabek. So I think the homework is still there. We still need to push for more policy on how people kind of like shift into public transport. I'm going to talk about this sort of like a community, ish, public transport. This is Microtrans. In the past, we call it Jaklingko, but then because of there's a new company like a payment integration called Jaklingko. So now the actual brain is called Microtrans. So for those of you still called Jaklingko, you're living in the past. So now you have to call Microtrans. Anyway, so yeah, even this kind of like a small vehicle, they already carry 25% of the total trips in out of the top 2.7 million trips daily in public transport system. So 25% is carried by this kind of like a small vehicles. Some of this already transformed to AC, and this is also free, 0 rupiah. You don't have to pay, you just have to buy the card. And then the thing that I'm going to highlight here is that the amount of vehicles. So almost 3,000 vehicles, so 2,900 microbuses. And they kind of like managed by cooperative. So this is not a company, not a professional company. It's like a cooperative, and you have like drivers. In total, I think it's about 6,000 drivers kind of like employed on a daily basis. And these are paid by Transjakarta through the subsidy of the government. So I think this is really how the city of Jakarta really cares about its people, providing the free public transport for good quality system like this. And you just walk like maybe 50 meters, 100 meters, and you get this small vehicles in your community. So I think this is really great example of how not only we focus on the big thing, like, big bus, trains and everything, but this is also one of the sort of key in Transjakarta, in Jakarta public transport. The other thing is that routes also plan in kind of like a conjunction with the communities. We also have here one of the key person in microtrans integration, Bu Fajar from Dinas Perhubungan. So Bu Fajar is the lady in the orange. So she's the key person in handling these operators. Like you have to talk to 11 different operators, and these are the people that you normally find in terminal, bus terminal. Like you have to write a contract, and they never read any contract or whatsoever. So I think this is really a big transformation. And the other thing is also how the Jakarta government work with the local district office, like Kecamatan, Kelurahan. Like Dishub and also Transjakarta went into this sort of like a small area to kind of like feel what is the need to improve and also the routes that they need to plan. So this is really how Jakarta, when they plan something in transport, they kind of like sort of like a bottom up from the grassroots kind of like approach. I think this example really good, and we have to continue to build more sort of a collaborative Jakarta. Small things. So the other thing why this is important, because the coverage of the microtrans. So this is the area where you have to walk maximum, I think, 250 meters radius. So if you walk, I think, this is the 300 meters radius. If you walk 300 meters, so the idea is that 92% of the area of Jakarta is basically reachable within 300 meters walk. For this microtrans. So you can easily get free public transport if you live in this 92% area. So if you don't, then you have to question yourself why you live in the 8% of the area. So anyway, so I think this is one example that it's there. We just have to make more effort to actually use it. And again, the effort is not really big. I mean, maximum is 300 meters. So in the morning, I think 300 meters walking is pretty easy, right? You can also run, not only walk. Now, other thing is that how the community sort of like evolving the area, the community. So again, I kind of like I put a few pains won't hurt, and this is actually one of the approach that Jakarta used with the MRT. So the picture on the left is a collaborative effort between the communities and the MRT in Haji Nawi area station. So they want to improve the connectivity and also how the school children and the people there to kind of like see this is not, so it's more like a sidewalk, not sidewalk, but like what do you call it, like a walkway, and you just paint this to kind of like show where you should go. It's more like a wayfinding. That's the word. So it's kind of like making a wayfinding for the communities, so they know where to go to access the MRT. The other thing is like a child-friendly environment. So this is an effort by the communities in the Sunter in the North Jakarta to make the motorcycle users kind of like slowing down and encourage kids to play outside. So this is really good. I mean, I should really do it to my children, to my kids, because he always play phone. So if you have this kind of thing, your kid then will just forget the gadget and focus on playing outside. So 3 things, what I think is next for Jakarta. So the first one is I think Jakarta needs more bike lane expansion. We did have a massive project, I think back in 2021, 2022. So expanding the bike lane should be the next goal of the city, of the current administration. The second one is the parking management. I mean, parking has to be managed. So you don't need to make parking free. You don't need to make parking available everywhere, but you need to manage it. The area that you need to park, that people need to park, then you can increase the fare, and you just need to kind of like restrict some of the area for parking. And the last one is road pricing. I mean, Profana mentioned about the out and even plate, and also the 3-in-1 actually before. So, but I think the next thing for Jakarta is to make it like a road pricing. This is how you can really control traffic. So basically limiting the traffic inside Jakarta is very, very critical, because as I mentioned in the earlier slide, the traffic is still the issue, and the only way, we can put so many public transport services, but if you don't put the sticks to get people out of the car, it's not going to happen, as we want expected. So that's pretty much my slide. So, visit our site, and thank you so much.
Right, thank you, Pak Yoga. I remember that you emphasized on integration and community ownership. So how the inclusive design can reshape mobility for the better. And then this is part of the Transjakarta history, I guess. Yeah. So now we move to the last speaker. It's coming from the Miss Clarina. It's actually, the question is how can the private sector support Jakarta for achieving seamless multimodal integration, both in the mainland and in island transport, especially in undeserved areas? Please, Ms. Kalina, we'd love to hear your views. Thank you.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Givari. Selamat siang semuanya. I'm going to use mixed bahasa and English because where I came from, South Jakarta, we use Benglish, bahasa English. So everyone here from South Jakarta will understand that. Okay, so let's do with a short video for the start.
Setiap langkah kecilku hari ini bisa jadi bagian dari perubahan besar Jakarta, kota global. Naik transportasi umum udah jadi kebiasaan. Tinggal buka aplikasi Jaklingko, semua rute langsung kelihatan. Canggih sih. Aku memilih Grab karena bisa satset diandalkan, efisien lagi. Ibu Grabnya cerita, dia narik buat biaya kuliah anaknya. Semangat terus ya, Bu! Naik KRL juga lancar, scan QR, kelar. Semua udah satu sistem. Sampai stasiun tujuan, Grabbike jadi andalan. Lihat shelternya yang rapi dan tertata, jadi ngerasa, wah Jakarta makin niat ya. Aku yakin dengan kemajuan teknologi ini, posisi Jakarta sebagai kota global bisa terus meningkat sejalan dengan upaya pemerintah Jakarta. Pas makan siang, aku order makanan dari GrabFood. Sekalian pesen buah di GrabMart buat nanti di rumah. Enak juga ya makanan dari UMKM Jakpreneur. Akhirnya selesai kerja, jadi inget belum bayar pajak. Bayar dulu deh. Keren ya, berkat teknologi kita jadi bisa jalan, makan, belanja, sampai bayar jadi terasa ringan dan mudah karena semuanya terkoneksi. Grab, melangkah bareng Jakarta.
Okay, thank you for the video. So let's call the lady in the video Gabby because Gabby rhymes with Grab. So siapa yang hari ini ke sini naik transportasi umum? Quick one aja. Boleh raise hand? Oke, berarti ini almost all nih, Pak Givari udah bagus ya, berarti udah pada naik transportasi umum. Cuman yang menuju ke halte atau stasiunnya naik ride hailing atau ojol atau taksol nggak harus Grab, bisa apa aja, siapa? Cukup banyak juga. Nah, di sini ada tim saya Nadia, nanti yang tunjuk tangan 2 kali boleh dapat voucher dari Grabbike. Boleh dicobain ya nanti vouchernya. Oke, mungkin aku langsung going through my slides. So here Pak, tadi udah thank you for the questions. So as you can see here, the network, the public transport network coverage in Jakarta currently is already more than 96%. However, as you can see in the pie chart here, only 90% is actually riding it. Jadi the question is why? Why is this happening? The network is there, tapi kok ridersnya masih kecil sekali ya. The question is why gitu ya. Mungkin teman-teman juga tadi yang udah mengkombinasikan antara naik transportasi umum with ride hailing services will know the answer next. The distance between our home or our kosan or our apartment may or may not too far from the nearest bus station, train stations. If we walk, it can be like 20, 30 minutes. But for us, the busy Jakartans, we need to go to our offices, our schools, or whichever places that we want to go at that day fast, right? And sometimes, for the office employees, we want to not to get sweat, right? To go to the office. So there are options right now, and ride hailing is one of it. This is the part where Grab is actually providing our first mile and last mile to go to the bus stations or the nearest train stations. So this is the data from Litbang Kompas, just recently launched. So 71.7% the users of mass public transport in Jabodetabek is actually combine the ridership from ride hailing to and from the nearest bus and train stations on daily basis. So it is really big numbers. And from that 71%, 75% are using ride hailing services as their first mile and or their last mile. But however, there are still many challenges for us as ride-hailing services to incorporate the integration with the mass public transportation. So one of the most challenges, Pak Givari, we've talked about this a lot with our partner in Bapada here. One is the supporting infrastructure. So if you see a lot of our drivers wandering around near the MRT or Transjakarta stations, it's because we try so hard to find them a shelter for them to wait until the user came. However, we are not always can find that. So one of the key challenges also from us, because this forum is also for the inputs for the government, both at local and central governments, the integrations for ride-hailing services is really key. This is because we need to support our Jakartans that really need our service to go to the nearest mass public transport, because it will increase the ridership of those services. The second is the payment system. How many of you here need to use so many apps on your phones just to go to your office? One, you need to, let's say, order Grab through Grab app. And then you need to probably change to MRT app, I don't know. Or you need to buy through your mobile banking or using your e-money. And then once you arrive at your destination, probably you need to use another app. So it's so many apps that you need to have on your phone. So the payment integration, including the applications for point to point until you reach your final destination, is really key. So Grab, Pak, is one of the only ride-hailing service that already in Jaklingko app. So if everyone's here use Grab or regular user of MRT or KRL, you can try downloading Jaklingko and see if that's something that finally there is an integration over there. And the last thing is, because we offer the first mile, last mile services to and from the nearest stations, we do hope that the government, Pak, can also see us as the part of the mass public transport network. So all the policies from the central up to the regional policies can really support the existence of ride-hailing, because it is really helpful for Jakarta, including me. I also use public transport, but combined with ride-hailing. So I think that's from me, Pak. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Clarina ya. Saya sudah nunggu-nunggu ya. Ada nggak tuh yang namanya grab boat. Karena kan menghubungin ke Pulau Seribu ya.
Yes. If
Gimana?
if the demand and the supporting infrastructure are there, we are ready, Pak.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Clarina. Despite the broad coverage, usage remains low, and today's presentation show that that user-centric integration is the missing link. Yeah. And then a global city needs global thinking, and the digital infrastructure will be central to that. With that, we still like this. Yeah. Okay, we still have around maybe 5 and 7 minutes for Q&A from the audience, maybe. Is there any question from the audience? Okay, one at the stage.
Can I?
From the right.
Yeah.
Yeah. First, and then the second one. Okay, on the left, yeah. The batiks one. Yep. Silakan.
Terima kasih. Thank you. My name
Mention,
is,
mention the name and then to whom your question
my name
addressed.
is, yeah, thank you very much. My name is Komar Rajaya from Urban Studies, the same school as Lin Yola. I got the opportunity to direct my question to Prof. Hana. I've been already your student a few years ago in Sebuah actually. My question is straightforward to the issues of urban finance. I think now the government of Jakarta trying generously to help surrounding area with some subsidized tariff, which is good to some extent because people working in Jakarta, it's not just Jakarta citizens themselves, but also surrounding Bekasi, Tenggarong. But my question is, Lin Yola studying with us in some agglomeration cities like Jakarta, one, Surabaya, also Medan, who else? But the question is, the lower capacity, the fiscal capacity is pretty low in surrounding area, not like Jakarta. They can help the surrounding regions. Can you share with us the typical urban finance issues, the cities like London, Tokyo, which is the urban transportation tariff is subsidized? I don't know whether by city government or probably by by central government. That's what we need. The problem is the appetite of local government to get a kind of debt, urban finance, or that's loan finance from, say, for example, from Minister of Finance, pretty low. Because again and again, fiscal capacity of the surrounding area like Jakarta is pretty low. So can you share how to kind of break truth, then the agglomeration issues, the cities is more growing and growing and cities life is becoming more, what should I say, enjoyable. Terima kasih, Prof. Hana.
Terima kasih Bapak. Mungkin sekaligus dua ya, Masnya.
Hello, I'm Hyrule, final year student of urban planning at ITB. I want to ask some questions about the experts here already stated about the main challenge is the covering or public transportation coverage. It's about the first and last mile. The experts already offer, the government also offering some solutions like microtrans. I wondering how about we use to more like the concept of active mobility. The one concept that I am currently thinking about is the walk, cycling, and ride, which is implemented in Singapore, which they provide like wide access of bike lanes, also like covering walkways, and also connecting to the point of public transportation like bus or like MRT to bringing that quickly to the cities. This concept is also more low in carbon besides like comparing to using like ride hailing or even like the buses itself. And my question is, how is this Jakarta planned? Is there any plan or is this in any concept to implement this concept of active mobility into Jakarta? Okay, Thank you.
Terima kasih. Ini masa moderator ditanya sih? Duh, yang bener aja nih. Nanti jawabnya sama Bapak aja deh ya. Mungkin, oh ada di sub ya, nanti Mbak Fajar. Okay, maybe the first question addressed to Prof. Rema.
Okay, so hi. So that was a very tough question, and I don't think it could be answered in a minute. But I will give some quick thoughts. I do think, like when you got a city like Jakarta, where there's so many opportunities and jobs, and people are going to want to come in, and they're going to want to come in from the outlying areas for opportunity, and that's going to cause additional traffic. It's going to cause additional pollution, all sorts of other things. And so we really do need to think about, as we do urban planning, how to manage it. But the key challenge around a lot of these issues is that you're often, in many cities around the world, it's different jurisdictions, and so then who pays? And so as you start thinking about trying to manage across the manage across these different distributions, you do run into these issues of: is the city covering it? Is it collaborations across cities? Is the central government getting involved? And I do think then you go beyond, as you start thinking about legal issues, you are thinking about who has the money to pay for a lot of these things, what is the regulatory framework, and so I think it's actually very complicated, but I agree, it's the things we should be thinking about just because it's happening, life is happening. People are gonna wanna come where there are opportunities, and we don't want the traffic to get worse, and we wanna facilitate people being able to have access. We do need to be thinking about how do we connect just not the public transportation in the city, but really connect to some of these outlying areas as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Rema. Mungkin ada dari speaker yang mau nambahkan? Oh, Pak Yoga.
Yeah. So let me add maybe a few things for both questions. So the first one, Pak, I think we don't actually have to always benchmark, London, Tokyo, or anything. There is a few cities already started. Like for example, to improve the connectivity, but also improving the sort of like a subsidy, the support. Like for example, Jakarta, I think it's about 5 trillion rupiah is given for public transport subsidy for MRT, LRT, and Transjakarta. But we also see other cities, like for example, Semarang. We also see Pekanbaru, Medan. The thing is that also the commitment by the mayor. So, for example, in Pekanbaru, there is this Perda, local regulation that states that 5% of the APBD has to be allocated for the subsidy. The second one is now we see also the trend of, we call it obscene pajak. So right now, many of the city local government, they can also get more funding from the car registration tax. So I think there's something that we need to also see. I think Bali is a good example on how they want to also split between the provincial budget and also the municipal budget to improve the public transport in the sort of Sarbagita, which is the regional one. So I think that's one of the examples that we can also see and also do more research on. Now the second one on the active mobility, yes, Jakarta. Again, I'm not the most qualified person. I think you need to talk to Bu Fajar after this. But yes, Jakarta already already done it at least started in 2017. So I mentioned about the bike lane, introduction in 2019, 2020. There was basically the idea of having, walking, cycling as a sort of a first mile and last mile. We did one, I think 2018 with the bike share program also, but it didn't really work that well. Grab even did this, what do you call the scooter thingy, right? Like a scooter sharing, but some controversy about the regulation, and so it was canceled. But I think the idea of having active mobility is really, has to be encouraged, right? I think Indonesian or even Jakartans, more maybe Indonesians in general, has the lowest rate of walking, per day, or like 3,000 or 5,000 per day compared to other countries, or like 10,000 or 6,000. So I think having more infrastructure towards improving the connectivity, walkways. You mentioned about the covered walkway. That's really spot on. I mean, that's really needed, for the torrential rain, but also for the weather like in Jakarta. The city already do it and is doing it right now, as you can see. For example, sidewalk in Cikini, you can see there was I think kind of like revitalized back in 2020. So those things are actually happening, and we should really push for more kind of projects in the future.
Terima kasih Pak Yoga. Oh, mungkin Bu Lin?
Yeah, I said just now that we can't depend on the public funding only, like subsidies and tax. For the subsidies, I think is already very big now in Jabodetabek. We have for the fare for the Jabodetabek, Trans Jabodetabek is around, I think supposed to be 15K. Is now I think we are paying 3.5K. So it's around 11.5K subsidy. So Pak Komara knows, I think we need to develop the economic force, which would make the center of growth in maybe those undeveloped area or low developing area, like what I said just now, Kepulauan Seribu. I'm still going there. We need to develop the Kepulauan Seribu. Is either on tourism or is either other commercial centers, for example, like free tax commercials, or even we have the water-based tourism also, yes, around Kepulauan Seribu. When this is growing, of course, the tax is growing as well, and yeah, the financing I think would help more. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much Mbak Lin. Pertanyaan satu lagi tadi sudah terjawab belum? Jangan-jangan belum ya? Sudah, cukup ya? Oke, baik, terima kasih. Oke. Mungkin satu pertanyaan lagi. Selamat datang Bapak Anies.
Tadi kan hanya yang bikin jalur sepeda, ini Bapak ini yang bikin jalur sepeda. Tadi juga trotoar yang depan dan Cikini juga Bapak ini yang bikin dulu.
Oke, baik, mungkin penanya satu lagi. Baik, sebelah kanan di stage. Silakan petugas.
Hello, my name is Vanilla, and I'm here want to ask, maybe untuk Mas Yoga or Prof. Remain here, like from the presentation, all the presentation, like we can conclude that comfort, efficiency, and smooth integration is all about the reason why people choose public transport, right? But I have, in my gut, I have something missing, like the behavior of the public transport user itself is like, have a different approach from this, yes, A, B, and C, like, because example, our communication to advocate the public transportation is more toward the mid and low people, where the higher ups sometimes, like, they could get away of it, because when I was in Singapore, but in Singapore, we can easily spot like my manager, my C-levels staff, taking the public transportation without having a shame. But in here, like I have like experienced some real testimonials for the people like here. They feel like it's not a shame, but it's useless to take public transportation because they already have their resources like private cars, private drivers, and etc. Even though it's already convenient for them, like the MRT and LRT. And what I kind of missing with the advocating the public transportation is how we approach this kind of SESA people to use more public transportation, because in the street we could see that people who could afford car, expensive car, and etc. is also the one who make the street, the traffic as high, right? So is because it's already a long undergoing discussions, right? Do economic sectors like the SES thing is really connected to the user of public transportations and how do we approach it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vanilla. Maybe Prof. Rema or? Yeah.
Fire up just provoke some things. First of all, I don't 100% agree with the statement that only low-income people use public transport. You actually, we also see not only in MRT. I mean, obviously with MRT, the difference between MRT and Transjakarta is that in MRT you can use the backpack, using it behind, but in Transjakarta you use it in front because of the chopet. I'm joking. No. Safe. Transjakarta safe. But anyway. But I mean, this is the idea of having not only good public transport, but also making it more difficult, for people to drive. Yes, maybe it's a bit difficult for people to, already have a driver because, with or without public transport, they all already have to pay the salary of the driver. But we also see, it's still anecdotal, but the idea is that public transport is still being used by, high-income people. But again, my opinion is that the good public transport, yes, it's a must, but you need to also put the what we call the stick factor, which is kind of like making it difficult for them. The easiest way for any city is to limiting the parking. You can have all the money in the world, but if there's no space to park, and that's it. Maybe the first alternative is to use taxi or, whether, like regular taxi or the online taxi. But if you don't have any parking space, and that's it, like you will never try, to go there, like round around, try to find a parking space. So parking is the most effective, but also you can also play with the pricing for the parking as well. Road pricing is also one of the things that we can also use. So limiting so that maybe only people that very or super rich that can use the road in Jakarta. But that doesn't mean that people that not rich cannot have the access to mobility. So that means that having first of all the active mobility, I think that will be the first one. The sidewalk and the bike lane, the bike sharing, that should be the priority. So you don't need to take public transport. You just need to to go like walking and cycling. But also the last thing that I didn't touch here is how you can make it close to your office. Stay as close as possible from your home to your office. Then you don't need to have public transport anymore. You don't need to have these cars and everything like that. You can easily walking. So I think what we call the concept of higher density city, like a transit-oriented development, that will be the thing that we also need to invest in the future.
Can I add? Oh, yeah. So first of all, I completely agree with Pak Yoga on everything. And I must say, in the data, we tried to examine this when we were looking in the data. What happens if you add buses to particular routes or add new routes, more direct routes? And we saw similar impacts on high and low neighborhoods, which also tells you that when you have a good quality of service, when you're increasing bus service, when you're going to see reactions both in low-income neighborhoods and high-income neighborhoods. And I was actually surprised because I thought we'd see much bigger effects in low-income neighborhoods. But you can move people across the SES distribution when you have high-quality service. And so part of it is trying to think about how do we optimize based on the kind of routes that people need to take within the city. How do we make the services much more convenient? As I said at the beginning, it has to be safe, it has to be efficient, it has to work for the people. And I also agree on the sticks. I think if we want to get people out of the cars, you have to make it a little bit costly and make the public transportation more fun, more convenient, and it's the only way to really just make the transition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Rema. I guess we don't have much time to discuss the transportation issue. This is quite big issue that not only one day, still have many days, many months maybe to discuss. So the last one maybe, I need some closing statement to all of you, the speakers, regarding what is actually the transportation in Jakarta. Only two words. Okay, start from Prof. Rema maybe?
Oh, I love TJ. Because it's 3 words, but I do love Transjakarta.
Next.
Global mobility.
Right.
For me, it's more walking.
First mile, last mile.
Wow. Okay, once again, our sincere gratitude to all the speakers and participants for their valuable contributions. We hope to recover and adventure opportunities. Let us once more give a resound round of applause to all the esteemed speakers for today. Thank you and good afternoon, everyone.
Baik, terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu atas diskusinya dan juga pencerahannya atas transportasi hari ini. Baik, sebelumnya jangan beranjak dulu kemana-mana karena kita akan pembagian plakat dan juga souvenir oleh Bapak Ahmad Gifari selaku moderator bisa memberikan souvenirnya. Bapak Anies Baswedan, terima kasih telah datang, selamat datang. Berikan tepuk tangannya untuk Bapak Anies, Bapak dan Ibu. Baik, yang pertama kita akan menyerahkan kepada Profesor Remahana. Media bisa mengambil gambar terlebih dahulu. Baik. Dimohon Bapak untuk mengambil souvenirnya. Selanjutnya kepada Ibu Lin Yola, dimohon untuk maju ke tempat yang disediakan. Berikan tepuk tangannya, boleh dan Bapak dan Ibu. Baik, berikut souvenirnya Ibu. Berikutnya kepada Bapak Yoga Adiwinarto, dipersilahkan ke tempat yang disediakan. Selanjutnya, last but not least, Ibu Clarina Andreni dipersilahkan untuk maju ke tempat yang telah disediakan. Terima kasih atas kehadirannya dalam acara kita kali ini di Jakarta Future Festival 2025 terselenggara dengan baik berkat dukungan dari para sponsor yaitu PT Bank DKI, PT Pembangunan Jaya, PT Bali Towarindo Sentra Tbk, PT Grab Teknologi, PT Pam Jaya, PT Jakarta Industrial Estate Pulau Gadung Persero, PT Transportasi Jakarta, PT Food Station Cipinang Jaya, Perumda Dharma Jaya, PT Multi Citra Purnama Kognitif, PT VKTR Teknologi Mobilitas, Perumda Paljaya, Perumda Pasar Jaya, PT Kawasan Berikat Nusantara, PT Jamkrida Jakarta, Perumda Pembangunan Sarana Jaya, PT Pembangunan Jaya Ancol, PT Sewu Segar Nusantara Sun Pride, dan organized by JXP Jakarta Experience Board. Terima kasih dan sampai ketemu kembali di masa yang akan mendatang. Terima kasih.
Jakarta shines with dreams so bright.